Hi, I'm Beth from Sew Country, and today's tutorial is one that several people requested from me. They asked if I would do a clear vinyl version of the Perfect Point pouch. Now, this pattern just released from the designer Made by Elle. So after several people asked, I reached out to her and see if she was okay if I made a second video, this time with clear and jelly vinyl. She said that was fine to go for it. And so it was pretty easy for me to do this because I'd already made 3 clear vinyl pouches from that pattern before anyone even asked. So this vinyl that I have here, this is a TPU. This is on pre-order right now from my Little Shindig. Since it is May the 4th, I really wanted to do another Star Wars version, but I ran out of the Star Wars vinyl, so I couldn't. But anyway, I wanted to show you this one to help celebrate May 4th and to let you guys know that this pre-order is going on right now. I think it ends at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. I'll have this information linked in my description below. So for this pattern, there is no lining inside this version. I also did not bind the bottom seam. Some people do that, but I'm not going to. I don't feel it's necessary, but definitely if you want that extra pop of color or if you want it to have a more finished look, go ahead and do that. The main reason I like this pattern is not only it's quick and it's simple, it has a great shape, it doesn't wobble on the base. The base is so stable. I do lots of craft shows. I sell lots of clear vinyl pouches there. The pattern I was previously using, clear vinyl, it would top over, it wouldn't lay flat, and it was just kind of an inconvenience at times. This one is going to be much better for my shows. You can see it's really nice and neat. It just looks beautiful. So let's go over this really quick. You're going to be surprised at how little material it takes and how quick it comes together. In this tutorial, I am using clear vinyl from J&R Edwards. Now, this is not available on their website just yet, but it will be soon, as well as several other gorgeous clear vinyl prints. You'll be seeing me use those in many of my videos. I've already ordered, I don't want to say this on camera, but I think I've ordered like 10 rolls of the clear vinyl. I make a lot of projects with clear vinyl. I love their prices. I love their designs. So you will need to cut out 2 of the main panel pieces. That is the pattern piece, the full pattern piece. You will not need to print out the interfacing pattern piece because we will not interface this. So cut out 2 of these pieces. And that's really all you need to cut. But I am going to accept your zipper tabs. I'm using the jelly vinyl for my zipper tabs. Jelly vinyl is a little tricky to find right now. There are several places that are offering pre-orders for it, but to find it in retail, you have to be a little quick. You have to watch for it and then get in there and get it. This one's from Wonderground. There are other places that sell it, but that's where I got mine. And so what I did was I cut out 2 of the zipper tabs for the zipper with the jelly vinyl. If you do not have jelly vinyl, you can use a regular vinyl. You can use a cotton woven if you interface it. Just want to make sure that it's not going to fray, that it's a little bit stable. So you could use it, but I would just be careful if you use cotton woven for your zipper ends. These strips are completely decoration only. It's just for a pop of color along the top. You do not need these pieces. If you do not have jelly vinyl, if you can't get it, if you don't want it, you could still have this decoration. You could use a regular vinyl, leave it raw edge and cut it in this strip. For mine, since this is not in the pattern, I'll tell you, I cut mine 5/8 of an inch wide, and I just cut it for the length of the pattern at the top here. So that's the way I cut mine, 5/8, and it just goes all the way across here, and it'll just be that decorative component. If you don't have the jelly, like I said, you can use vinyl, or you could even cut this out of woven. I would cut a 2-inch piece of woven. I would interface it. I would fold it like a double fold piece of tape so that your raw edges are tucked in. And you can use that the same way. So don't let the fact that you don't have jelly vinyl, you can't find it, stop you from doing this pattern or stop you from having a decorative look at the top. Use what you have on hand. Never let me try to encourage you to buy more if you don't want to buy anything or if you don't have it in your budget. I will always tell you where I get things, but that doesn't mean that you have to use what I use to create a beautiful pouch. I just want to give you the facts and the details of what I'm using. So jelly vinyl if you have it, regular vinyl can be used, or even cotton woven. So I have 2 of those. And then I have a zipper. I cut the zipper exactly to the specifications set in the pattern, so don't change that part at all. Your zipper tabs, and your 2 main panel pieces, they will stay the same size. You just don't need a lining or any interfacing. That's all we need, and it's going to come together so quick. The first thing we're going to do is, just like in the regular pattern, we're going to fold these pieces. And what I'm going to do, when you see that I fold it like that, it's a little too wide for me, so I think I'm actually going to cut it down. I don't want to do a double fold on this because it would get a little thick. Yeah. So what I'm going to do right now, looking at this, is I don't want it this wide. So since that's, if I would fold it like this, I feel like that would just be too big and bulky on the end of this, so I'm actually going to cut mine down a little bit more. I don't want to double fold it. I feel like the bulk would be a little too much. So I'll set this one aside for another project. And I actually am going to use the ends just like that. So I'm just going to slip them on. I will have that raw edge right there. It doesn't bother me at all. Put my 2 clips right there. And then I will take this over to the machine and I will top stitch along that top edge on both of these zipper tabs, and that'll go ahead and get us started with making this pouch. So if you've not used jelly vinyl before, it has more of a silicone feel. It's kind of a cool feel. It's kind of rubbery feeling. I love the way it feels, and it sews really well. I use a domestic. It sews great on there. I did go ahead and add a new needle, so I had a fresh needle in my machine. I chose to use a Microtex. I prefer to use a 90, although I didn't have a 90. I went to a 70. I may have trouble with that later. We'll see. But right now, that's the needle I have. As far as my thread, it is just a polyester thread that my local craft store carries. And that's the only things I do a little bit differently. I don't use a Teflon foot. I don't feel like it needs it, but if you have one, go ahead and switch if you want to. So now I have both of the zipper tabs on. I went ahead and trimmed down the edges so everything's flush. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a layer of double-sided tape along both edges of the zipper just to help me put this on easier. You don't need it, and I typically don't use double-sided tape, but the way I'm doing this bag, I feel like it does help enough for me to use it. Lots of times I struggle with working with double-sided tape, but I'll use 1/8 of an inch. I'll keep it out of my seam so I won't be sewing over it, and it'll just help make things a little bit easier for me. Now that I have that double-sided tape on, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out one of my panels. Now what I want to happen here is I want to center my zipper tape onto my clear vinyl. I don't want to make any marks that are going to stay. So I wouldn't want to mark with something that I cannot get off easily, and I wouldn't want to clip any, like use my scissors to make any clips, because everything is going to show in this. Personally, I'm just going to eyeball this. If I'm a little uncomfortable, I could even get out my ruler to measure each side to make sure that it looks perfect, but I feel like I can manage it just fine by eyeballing it. Before I take off the tape, though, I'm going to get everything orientated the way I want. I'm also going to put this clear vinyl 1/4 of an inch away from the zipper teeth. That way I have enough room to attach it, but also it's not so close that it'll impede the opening of the zipper. So I'm going to take off this row of tape, and then I'm just going to lift this up and set it on here. Before I push it down, I'm going to make sure I'm pretty much centered. Everything looks good. It looks great. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jelly vinyl and I'm going to lay it directly on top, matching up the raw edge of the vinyl with the jelly vinyl. So the jelly vinyl and the clear vinyl raw edges match. So both of them are 1/4 of an inch away from the teeth. I'm not adding double-sided tape to this layer. You can if you want to. I'm just going to add 2 clips, one on each side. And then while I'm sewing, I will sew slowly. You can lengthen your stitch length a little bit. I'm going to go up to about a 3.5. I'm going to take my time and adjust, but I'm going to make sure that my jelly vinyl stays right over top of that clear, and we're going to just stitch down both long edges of that jelly vinyl strip. I like to do 1/8 of an inch away from both of the raw edges. I can look on the back and I can see I caught plenty of my zipper tape, so it is secure. I can go ahead and trim down this extra jelly on the sides here. And this is what I have at this point. I'm going to repeat that exact same process to attach the other piece of clear vinyl and jelly vinyl to the zipper. So now I have both sides attached, the jelly overlay on. The only thing we have left to do is close this up. That's how quick this is. So I just open my zipper a little bit. If you're using a number 5, you really don't even need to worry about that too much because they open easily from the wrong side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these right sides together, and I'm just going to clip along the edges. I don't need to use a lot of clips because vinyl has a tendency to cling to itself, so it'll stay together, but I'm just going to put these a few around just to kind of help secure it. Now that I have it clipped in place, what I'm going to do is the same steps in the original. The only thing I'm doing different is I definitely am not going to draw on this vinyl. If I draw on it with something that I can't get off easily, it's going to stay in the final. I'll be able to see it. Chalk isn't really going to help me much, so what I'm going to do is I'll use the pattern, and I'll only have 2 seam allowances to worry about. I'll be using the seam allowance given for the vinyl method, and I will, at the top of this one, I will start with that first seam allowance given, and I will stitch down. I can just put a clip as to the first spot where I start veering for that larger seam allowance. So we'll start with the smaller seam allowance and stitch down, and then we'll veer out, or I guess I should say veer inwards to take that larger seam allowance and then stitch the rest of the way down. Along the bottom, we just use the 1 seam allowance for the vinyl. On the back, we'll do the same. On the other side, we'll do the same thing. Start with that smaller seam allowance stitch and then veer in to use that bigger seam allowance. That's all we have to do. After we do that, we get those stitches done, then we'll come back and talk about boxing the corners. I will make for sure that I back stitch at the beginning and the end of all of my stitches. Also, when I line this up, I want to look to make sure that that vinyl, the jelly vinyl, is matching up as close as you can at the top. Mine looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. So I have my sides and my bottom sewn. I use the seam allowance shown, given in the pattern, and that same technique. Now what I want to do is I want to box the corners. I am not trimming down any seams just yet. I want to leave everything alone. And when I box my corner, what I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this up, but I like to stick my hand here in the middle and go from that middle spot. Now, since I'm using vinyl, I am not going to spread my seams open. I'm going to nest them. Vinyl, when you're working with it, it's already going to be putting some stress on the bag, any of the seams. The threads You know, you definitely want to use a polyester. You would not want to use a cotton. You just need something a little stronger. But I don't want to spread those seams open because I feel like it's just a little bit more riskier because I'm sewing plastic in a sense, you know? So we're just going to nest the seams. We're not spreading them open. I've got everything flat. I'm going to take this over the machine and sew both of my size, box both corners, matching the seams, spreading it out so it looks flat. And so you have a good straight line there, and I'm going to just sew from one side to the other with the seam allowance giving in the pattern, and that will make my boxed corner. Okay, so now I boxed both of my corners. I'm going to trim down my seams. What I like to do when using vinyl is I don't like to just trim across straight. Push that down, make sure you can see it okay. I like to kind of curve just a little because sometimes depending on the vinyl you're using, this vinyl is a very soft, flexible vinyl, but especially if you're using like a really thick PVC, it's kind of harder and you can get some sharp points. So, and at the bottom, I won't be able to get all the way down because it's already stitched, so I'll just kind of get close, and then when I get to the top, I'll be able to make that little curve there. And you'll just feel it to make sure it feels nice and smooth. I just don't want any sharp points. You don't know if you'll sell this to a kid or you'll give it as a gift, and you just don't want anybody to get hurt on it. At the bottom, you can go ahead and trim that seam as well. I trim it down. You can see it's about 1/4 of an inch seam after I'm done trimming it. I don't want it too close because I don't want to risk any issues with the threads tearing or coming loose. So I definitely want to be careful when I'm trimming it. Okay, this is it. We're done. I'm going to slowly turn it out. Anytime you're working with vinyl, you've got to go slow. And so we'll just start that process of pushing it out. Okay, I finished the clear vinyl perfect point pouch. It's perfect just like all my other ones. This pouch pattern is wonderful for clear vinyl. You have that steady base, it turns quickly. If you used a PVC that was really kind of stiff, you could still do it with this pattern. You may just have to use the blow dryer. You may take more time with your corners getting them poked out, but you could still use this pattern. The reason why is that base is so wide. It's not like a really sharp place to turn. It's not really tight, so you could still use it, but TPU definitely makes things a little bit easier for you. This vinyl, this zipper are both from J&R Edwards. I'll have the link in my description. This is not available just yet. It will be available later. If you join their Facebook group, you can watch for it to drop, and you'll see us post our pictures of everything we've made with it, so you can be inspired to make new things with it too. But anyway, the link for this vinyl, the link for this vinyl, this is the pre-order. They're both going to be listed in my description. The pattern's perfect for clear vinyl. I really hope you try the clear vinyl. Post it in the Made by Elle Facebook group and my group too. I have a Facebook group specifically for sharing pictures of things you make. So post it, show us, let us see what you do with yours. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you guys for suggesting that I do this tutorial. I love it when you guys give me suggestions and tell me the things that you like to see on the channel. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day sewing, and I can't wait to see what you make.